There was a time where businesses were downsizing. They were like, it was very good to reduce your staff. Then a year or two later, we saw workshops that were all about downsizing your life, making your life simpler. With big boards. Is that for here? Bring it on now. Are we good to carry on? Okay, so this year's self-help was last year's business week. We saw downsizing in the business market. It became downsize your life, simplify your life. We saw don't work harder, work smarter. And that was business speak for years. Streamline your business. You shouldn't have to work so hard. What you need to do is just work smarter. When you're smart enough, when you're doing the right things, your business will be successful. That then filtered through the personal development market. We saw threads of this in things like NLP. A lot of it moved into the personal development field. We saw the book and the film, The Secret, which is just, if you have the wisdom of the universe.
You want a table then? Or table then?
No, we're fine, thank you so much, yes.
Still got people arriving? Welcome, come on in. No, I was going to wait. But some of them, and I won't tell you who they are, basically they should start.
Yeah.
I know, just... Yeah. So this whole business ethic, this whole business thing, work smarter, don't work harder. It kind of led to this whole field in personal development, which basically says if you can find the secret, the technique, the recipe, the one thing that you need to do, you can be successful. And if you look on the internet, there is a whole huge number of people who are offering you the secret to success. You can download the free ebook. You can go on that particular workshop for the secret technique that that person has to make themselves rich. Now, it's questionable as to whether that person's ever got rich apart from telling people how to get rich, who then recruit people who go out and tell people how to get rich, and they tell people how to get rich. What has happened, and what I see a lot back home, is this kind of ethic, this kind of feeling that people get when they go to either set up their own business or they go to undertake some kind of entrepreneurial venture, which is, if it feels like hard work, you're probably doing it wrong. My experience is the majority of people trying to set up business have no idea how much effort, how many hours of frustration and difficulty they will face in getting their business to be successful. Because in the background, there is all of these people marketing how to get rich that are basically telling you it should be really easy. I like to think of myself as the antidote to that message, because I'm not entirely convinced it's true unless you're running a get rich quick seminar, in which case people will come. They won't necessarily get rich, but you might. And a lot will depend on your personal ethics as to whether that's what you want to do. So, I want to replace that with Andy's secret recipe for how to get rich.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
The secret recipe is work harder. However, working hard doesn't necessarily get you results. You can have a great big lump of rock and spend the rest of your life trying to push it up a hill. You will use all your effort.
Careful the glass just
You can thank you. You can use a lot of effort and a lot of energy pushing a rock up a hill, but it's not going to get you very far. And the question is, when you've got the rock at the top of the hill, then what are you going to do? Yet a lot of people will describe their attempts at doing business. It's like for them pushing boulders or pushing rocks uphill. Now, we're going to do a very quick exercise. You have 2.5 minutes to do this exercise. So when I say go, grab a person that you like the look of, and you're going to ask them a question. What is your business like? Okay? Not what is your business, not what do you do, but what is it like? One of the things that people don't really give much consideration to is the identity of the business or the employment in which they're in. Okay? So it's literally its business identity. And I have been working for a number of businesses where I have seen people get it so badly wrong, where they will get management consultants come in or trainers come in who have given absolutely no consideration to the business identity. I'll give you an example. One large employer that I used to work for, they wanted to change the nature of the environment. They wanted, their slogan was, "We are no longer good. Being good is not good enough." So their slogan became this: "We are going from good to great." Okay? From good to great became the slogan. And they brought in management consultants. Management consultants did their thing, charging, I don't know how many rupees it would be, but by English standards, it's a lot of money anyway. And eventually they came up with their strategy to change this company. They called it inverting the pyramid. The staff were all called into the auditorium and they were given the talk about inverting the pyramid. They told us this: the corporation here is like a pyramid. You have the manager or the CEO at the top, and then you have this hierarchy, and down the bottom, there's you. That's where all you employees are, at the bottom of the pyramid. Our mission as consultants for this company is to invert the pyramid. Now at this point, all of the employees of the organization are now feeling fairly insulted, because most of them did not feel themselves to be like this. Because that's not how people necessarily like to see themselves. And they told us what was going to happen is the employees will be at the top and management will be at the bottom, because management will be supporting the workforce. Because the way it is at the moment is the workforce are supporting management. And it was at that point that I realized the consultants they were paying were idiots. Because at no point inside this organization was there any mention in any of the structures, the communications, the way the business operates, that the business was designed to be a pyramid. We were not in Egypt. No one talked of pyramids. No one thought about pyramid structures. Yet the redesign they were offering had nothing to do with the day-to-day experience of any of the employees. And these people told us that they were there to make our lives better. And all they did was confuse everybody. The project ran for 6 months and eventually they abandoned it. What they replaced it with was the strangest thing I had ever sat in terms of corporate training. It was, are you on board the management bus? I had to do a double take when I was in the meeting. I said, excuse me? are you on board the management bus? I said, what management bus? They said, well, management is like a bus, and we want to make sure that all of these staff are on board with management. And what they did is they had a great big picture of a bus, and they stuck it on the wall. And they said, right, we want you all to position yourselves to how close to being on board the bus that you feel yourself to be. And all I could think is, what bus? Now, in terms of identity, think about what this trainer is trying to set up. If you're an employee and we want you on board the management bus, that means you're a passenger. And you go where we management take you. You don't get to drive the bus, you don't get to set the speed the bus goes, or how far, or how fast, or the direction. In order for you to be an employee that we management appreciate, you have to be a passive passenger and basically go where we take you. I asked them, why are you doing this? And they gave me the cliche, which was, we are empowering the workforce. And I said, empowering to do what? What are they empowered to do? Well, to make decisions. But they can't act on the decisions because they have to be passengers on board the bus. And she said, stop arguing, just place yourself where you are in relation to the bus. So I went out the door. What I don't want to happen is for anyone here to make that same mistake. Because this is one of those things that why in corporations, people tend to fear, loathe, and hate corporate trainings. Have you ever been on those kind of workshops in the corporation where you think, why am I here? What is the purpose of all this? So, what I want to do is examine some of the structures of identity that corporations have. If I can ever wipe this board clean. Eventually we get it. Okay. My guess is that the metaphors and the structures that people have in this culture are going to be very different to what we have back in England. So please bear with me. I'm going to give you some of the structures that we have, and then we're going to do an exercise around the structures that you have. For example, some people will see their business as a farm. They use farming metaphors. Their whole way they think is like farming. They talk about growing their business. We're increasingly seeing terms like organically growing your business. So the business grows naturally. We talk about planting the seeds of opportunity, reaping the rewards, harvesting the profits. So there's a lot of farming metaphors that get used. And some people, they follow the structure in their business of exactly the same way that a farmer will employ structures to farm. Now for some people, their business is a vehicle. When they start their business, they want it to start up, starting it, like an engine. They will want people to get on board their business, like it's a vehicle. We want to get people on board the business to get it started. When it's started, we're going to drive the business forwards. So you talk about driving the business. They talk about steering the business. They talk about the path or the road ahead. So often, their structure of business is as a vehicle that's on a journey. Just to give you some of the problems that can emerge, one gentleman that came to see me, he said he's been growing his business for quite some time. And he's been planting all these seeds of opportunity, farming. And I said, okay, what's the problem? He says, I can't get it to move forwards. Think about it, he's got a farm, that's how he's structured his stuff, but his problem, the reason he's come to see me, is he can't get his business to move forwards. All I could say is, isn't that a good thing? And he said, no, it's a disaster. The business that moves like a vehicle is not going to be the same business design that operates as a farm. For some people, their business is a building. This is one of the most common ones that we tend to see. People talk about building their business. Building a business on solid, firm foundations. They talk about adding a new level to their building, or to their business. But the word building occurs a lot in terms of business. What else? Any others? Boats. Shipping metaphors, very common. So we've got basic sailing. Some people think their business should be plain sailing. Some people, it's they navigate choppy waters or shark-infested waters. Some people, they have to weather the storm or ride a rough sea. These are very common expressions that people use to discuss difficult or turbulent times in terms of their business. Are these familiar? Do you have the same ones here?
Very much, very much.
Do you have any different ones here?
Some are different.
That puts fear in me back home. Culturally, things are very, very different. But when I walk into a business or a company and I get introduced to everyone and they say this, we're all a very happy family here. I get that horrible feeling here that says, I want to be somewhere else. But there are family-run businesses. But there are managers who will try to organize their people like family. And that can work for some and not work for others. Here is one example, and this is what we're going to start to explore. I did some consulting work with one group. Now, their business was very much organized around a farm. They planned ahead, they saw seasons of change, they planted things for the future, they planted opportunities, they reaped rewards of past endeavors. So it was very much around farming. Now, the problem they had was they were unable to retain staff. So they had lots of staff coming in and lots of staff leaving. And on one particular week, one job position had 6 people come through that one job position. They'd come in, one guy walked straight back out again. He didn't even take his coat off. He was there, he had a look around, he said, this is not for me, I'm leaving. And they asked me to have a look at exactly what was going on as to why they couldn't keep their staff. So I said, okay, first of all, who is it that you're trying to recruit? And they said, we're trying to get the best players in the business. Now that word, the best players, that's the first thing that comes to me. So I look at their adverts, the advertising that they put into the newspapers to recruit people in. And they wanted competitive players who are willing to explore the field. Now, this is a farming organisation. It's not a farm, it's a business. But they've organised it as a farm. They think of it in farming terms. Now, when they talk about exploring new fields or going into pastures new, is to grow stuff. They can plant stuff in those fields. But they were recruiting top players willing to explore the field. Not the same fields, they're talking about sports fields. And players are not really very good farmers. They're going to be more into competition and being challenged and being pushed and having those kind of challenges. The moment they step foot into what is a business that has no competition because it just grows stuff metaphorically, they're not going to stick around. But it hadn't occurred to anyone that the people they were recruiting did not match the business identity that they'd already built. Does this make sense? So, what are you going to do? This is the exercise. Now, this exercise is going to happen in about 3 or 4 stages. I want you to get into groups of 3. And what I want you to find out from each other very quickly is what is the overall identity of either your employment that you're in, the business that you're in, or the business that you own, or the one that you want to have, if you're just thinking about setting one up. And what is the general structure? It may be one of those, it may be one of the ones that have been mentioned elsewhere, it may be something completely unrelated. I just want you to find out a few details. What I don't want you to do is to go into what the business does, what you sell, how you feel about it. It's not about that. It's about the identity of the business itself. The actual content of what is going on is largely irrelevant for this exercise. So just find out groups of 3, there may be a group of 4, and I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Yours is more like a journey. Okay? And people talk about I'm trying to go places in life. I'm trying to get from A to B. I'm trying to get ahead. I'm trying to move forwards. So it's very much about the journey. So movement is very important. You hear there would be a mismatch because he's moving forwards, yours is the playground. So you go into the playground, you go to the place. So does he, but his moves, yours doesn't. Because some people talk about being in business. Some people talk about being on their business. Some people are chasing business. Some people, they are chased by business. Very different relationships, but we're going to explore those.
Please hang up and try again.
So let me move on to the next stage of what we're going to do. Picture 3 types, 3 different types of business. We've got building structure of stuff, the agriculture, growing of stuff, or the vehicle that drives forward or moves. Now just imagine you're in the position of being a business consultant to each of these types of business. Now I'm going to just remind you, my experience of business consultants is the majority of them have no awareness of business identities and will go in to make all sorts of suggestions that conflict with the existing ideologies and structures inside the business and the way it operates. So this, if we look at this one, if we were consulting with somebody whose business was as a building, if we were going to sell them our services, we would talk about the blueprint for business, adding a new level to your business, expanding your business, developing your business, building better, more solid foundations. They're the kind of ways you could sell to that business. That won't necessarily work with these two. Those metaphors won't work in terms of sales pitch. And if you read sales copy of management consultants, the mixing of messages is extraordinary. I'm going to basically come and attend or buy my product. I'm going to give you rocket fuel so you can build more solid foundations, so you can carry your business forward to the new millennia. So we've got rocket fuel that moves the business forward and solid foundations. Read some of the British NLP people's sales copy, it's priceless. Now, think about if your business, or we're consulting with somebody whose business is a building, how can we develop and make this a better or bigger or more profitable building? Let me give you some of the suggestions. We can add a new level to it. Okay? We could expand it. They're those 2 most common things that people consider doing. And often the thing gets so big, they're then caught in the position, like many big buildings, you now have to have people in just to maintain the building. And some businesses hit a threshold where the business only operates to sustain the business, and the reason it was there in the first place is lost. My 2 most common moans and groans that I have in the UK. In hospitals, patients are a serious inconvenience to a very well-run hospital. It is as though there are now so many systems inside hospitals that they run to maintain the hospital, and that the patient is actually now irrelevant to the reason why the hospital was there. And our public transport system seems to have the same problem. That the train system tends to work brilliantly when there's no passengers. But the moment you introduce passengers, which is the reason it's there, all these problems suddenly emerge. Because they build it too big, and now there's too many people in just to sustain and support the business. So the two most common things people tend to think of is expansion, adding another level. But there's other things you could do. You can have better signage. You can build better roads to the business. Okay. You could, what else can you do? Oh, you could put signage elsewhere. You could build another one as a satellite. It doesn't have to be attached to here. It could be another one that's set up elsewhere. There's many other things you can do there. Can anyone think of any others? Right, so the actual quality of what the thing is built from.
Have a backyard.
A backyard? A back. You could do. These are more now, if you think about it as a business, that would be changing the image and the stylization of it. How could what would get more flow in and out of the business?
Connect it to the internet.
You could connect it to the internet. So we put lines of communication in there, as well as just paths and roads to it, and signage. You can have other ways of getting communication in and out. Make sense? Okay. If we're using agriculture, there's pastures new. There are new fields to explore, new fields of opportunity. You can plant more things. We could add fertilizer. So we have, and I've never seen this. I have never seen any business consultant or management guru or anyone advertising business fertilizer. Because most of them are talking about moving their business forward like a big, or building solid foundations or adding new dimensions. But business fertilizer, so the people who are in the agricultural way of thinking, might make a bit of sense, even though it sounds a bit odd. But they will know what you're talking about. What else could we do?
I was also thinking the business consultants use the word "we're catalyst for your business." They use the word catalyst.
Yeah, that's big. Okay, what else for agriculture?
Weather, the kind of climate, weather, what season it is.
Now, the climate and the seasons are what we call extraneous factors. They are external to the operating of the business. However, ignorance of what is outside of the business can be fatal. So knowing what those factors on the outside are, what the seasons are, in terms of your planning and foresight, can make or break whether that is going to work or not. And so many people see a successful market is coming to the end of its season, and that's when they first hear of it. And because it's new to them, they assume it's new for everybody, and they massively invest in a product or a market that's actually at the end of its season. But they don't think about the next season. I have a theory about some of the shops that you have in India that sell to tourists. Because as somebody who's experienced a lot of tourism around the country, I go into shops that maybe people who live here won't necessarily go into. You know the ones, they sell all the beads, the tie-dye, the hash pipes, the stuff that is sold to the Western visitor in India. Not that many people buy that much stuff, considering how much stuff in places in Goa you will get mile upon mile upon mile of shops all selling exactly the same thing. What the shopkeepers are missing is they are the customer. It's not me. It's not us. The shopkeeper is the customer. Because the producers and the manufacturers are filling the supply line. And the shopkeepers are buying up all this stuff to try and sell it to us, but we don't buy it. They are given the promise that they'll be able to sell the stuff. But mostly they don't. And these guys are usually pretty poor. Because they don't realize they are the customer of the wholesaler and manufacturer. But it's not told. They're not told that. They've got the wrong identity. They actually think they're a retailer, and that we are the customers. Doesn't work that way. Now, this is very, very common in many facets of business, where you'll find people believing there is a customer base for their produce, but they don't realize they are the customer base themselves. So they fill the shelves with the stuff, the wholesaler is a very, very happy man, and all this stuff on the shelves goes dusty, and they don't understand why they can't sell it. I have recently consulted with a guy in the UK who fell for exactly this, and he has in his house, the upstairs of his house is full of this stuff. He can't sell it. So what he plans to do is to tell other people they can sell it to the customers. So he's now going to offload it to other people by telling them they're going to be the seller of the product. He couldn't sell it himself, so he's going to try and make money by telling you that you can sell it. It'll gather more dust, you then pass it on to somebody else, telling them they can sell it, and it goes on and on and on. And this stuff gets passed around where people convince themselves they're a business person, they're actually a customer. But they weren't paying attention to the seasons and what is external to their business. Because they have gone for the dream. Anyone can be successful. Actually, that's not true, of course. Okay, if we look at the vehicle metaphor, or the vehicle structure in terms of how people think of a business, the direction it goes. Some people, their vehicle is perfect. They've got it started, they've got it moving, but it's going uphill. It may well be that it's the wrong hill. And why do they want to go uphill anyway? They might want to go around the hill. It's not as straight. They're going to go around, but it's a different way. They may want to consider the roads they drive on. Many of you who drive have probably done this. You have the wrong vehicle for the wrong kind of road. I've done this. I have a motorcycle and I took it off-road. It's a street bike, and I took it into the woodlands. Not the good thing to do with a street motorcycle. So the path or the road that you're on, it may well be that you have a vehicle that is perfectly built, but you may need to build the road as well. You may need to clear the road, clear the path for the thing to move forwards. We're now into pioneering territory, where we actually clear the way for the thing to move forward, to take it into new areas. But often people get fixated on this. They're up against a block. It can't go forward any further. Let's put more fuel in it. Let's put more energy behind it, and we might break through. But it might be that you need to leave that and clear the blockage first before it can move anywhere. But that's often outside of people's thinking. Does this make sense? So here's your next exercise, for which you've got 10 minutes. You're now going to pick apart each other's structure of how they represent their business and find out the areas they've not considered that they can actually improve or change the way that they're structuring stuff. We're not going into any content, so we're not looking at the product, what they sell, or any of those aspects. It's purely what they have going on inside their head. Does this make sense? So for you, businesses like sailing, that's right, just close your eyes there for a second. Yeah. Sailing what? I mean, are we talking like a little tiny fishing boat? Or are we talking a great big ship? What kind of sailing?
Just sailing on water.
Yeah, I know it's on water. But what kind of boat are we talking about?
Just the boat that I'm riding on.
Okay, now are we talking a fishing boat where you can only fit 2 people on board? Or is it like a passenger liner?
Only I'm there in the boat, I'm just.
Okay. Tell me about the boat. Is it a small boat? Is it a big boat?
Big one, big.
Like how big? Are we talking like a passenger liner?
Yeah.
Or is it a passenger liner?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And you're driving this?
Yeah.
Or are you a passenger?
I'm driving it.
Oh, you're driving it. Okay, so you're on a very big boat and you're driving it. Okay, now, what kind of water is it? But is it calm water? Is it choppy water?
Calm.
Okay. So he's on a big boat on calm water. That sounds pretty good, I have to say. Which direction are you going?
East.
Okay.
Towards sky horizon.
Oh, okay. So are you going away from land? You're going away from land. So now, he's going east, he's going away from land, which may or may not be the case. Because I guess when you're at water, you're always going somewhere. Where are you going to? So you're going east, but what's there? What is east?
All I see is bright sky, and I'm
Sure.
going towards that.
Okay, so you're moving towards the bright sky, but what's there? So why that direction? Why not say south? So what I'm looking for is if we introduce changes, what happens? So here it's all very much about direction. It seems to me that a big boat on calm water, that sounds pretty good to me. But what direction is it going? Now, big boats, how do they come to a stop? Do they ever stop? Do they dock? What happens if they go into shallow water? How do they weather storms? There's lots of things around those areas that we could explore. Does that make sense? So you're going east, but what is east? You're not trancing out on me there, are you? You are still with us. We're not doing the hypnosis stuff. We're doing some of that tomorrow.
No, I'm just going with the
I know, you look like you were pretty... Oh, he's going with the flow. So we know there's a current. So it's not completely still, it's going with the flow. Again, this sounds pretty good to me. I like that. And people do that. They talk about going against the flow, going with the flow, struggling against the tide. Some people feel like they're struggling to stay afloat. We talk about floating a company, floating a business. Some people worry about going overboard. Some people worry about drowning. Some people struggle to keep their heads above water. There's all these kind of expressions that people will use that will reveal the structure of their business. Does this make sense? So we're exploring how do people structure stuff, and are there any areas that need to be addressed that the person hasn't thought of? Does everyone understand the exercise?
Yeah, but I have another question now.
Sure.
Should we stay with the same metaphor, or we think of changing the metaphor, or
Now.
exploring other metaphors?
For now, what I want you to do is to stay with the person's own structure, stay with theirs. One of the things I recommend you do, we're not going to do this morning, but one of the things I recommend you do, think of your business in agricultural terms. What would it be like if it was agriculture? Then think of your business like a vehicle. Because you'll find which structure works best. One of the biggest difficulties I see in business is people don't have an overall identity. So we'll see someone build their business on solid foundations. One guy says, I've spent 10 years building the foundations for my business. 10 years building the foundations for your business? Yes. And I said, so what's the problem? It just doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Now, if you hear someone say that, you'll understand the difference, right? He spent 10 years building his business, and it's not going anywhere. He's building the foundations for his business. And that, for him, is a problem. So I said to him, what do you want from me? When what he said is, I want you to help me get this started. You can see why the guy's confused. So, and inside large companies, you will hear one manager motivating the staff through agriculture, somebody else motivating them through competition, somebody else motivating them through building. And all the staff are getting all these mixed messages, and none of them have a clue what's going on, because they haven't got a ready identity. And then I walk in and they go, we're all a happy family here, and all the staff do this. So no, we're not. So it's about sorting through to actually find the core identity of how you operate.
So we can shift and check how well, like I can always go for farming and check how it is.
I would. Yeah. But not for this exercise.
Understood.
You can do that later.
Understood.
But it's one of the things I recommend people do as well. They put different filters in. So if your business was a plant, what kind of plant would it be? Some people would be shriveled up and need watering. Yeah, those kind of things. Okay, I'm going to give you 10 minutes. Thank you. Now, my one overriding recommendation to everybody with this kind of exercise: avoid asking the person how they feel. I said again, avoid asking them how they feel. How do you feel about that? Because this isn't about feelings, it's about the strategies and the behaviors. There tends to be a bias towards emphasizing it's important to feel good. Well, heroin makes people feel good. It makes them feel really good. And you can inject that every day. You can get that good feeling every day. But it doesn't necessarily lead to a good life. So I see the same thing. It tends to be a bias in terms of personal development, management, leadership. It tends to be, if we can get everyone feeling good, then everything's going to be fine. Say yes, yes, say yeah, yeah. And we all get them whooped up, and everything will be fine. But that's not that strategic in terms of getting things done. So if you see an over-reliance on feelings, if you find yourself emphasizing towards how does the person feel, how do you feel? So, oh, you're in a play park, how do you feel about that? You're asking the wrong questions. You want to know more about the play park and how the person interacts with it. Now, to add to this, I'm going to give you something else that time probably won't permit us to do an exercise with, but we'll see what happens. And what I want you to consider is the relationship you have to your business or to your employment. The relationship that you have. That doesn't mean how you feel about it. A relationship is defined in this context as the relative position of two or more things to each other. Now, I wish I had an easy way to explain what I'm about to explain, but I don't. So if it sounds confusing, it probably is. Just bear with me. So, if I'm one of those things, and this chair is another thing, the relative position that the two of us have to each other, there could be more than two, defines the relationship. We're very close. We seem to be drifting apart. Okay? Relative positions. Now, to make things easy, we're going to assume there exists such a thing called direction. Because there is direction. Many of us are going in different directions. But we're going to be going in the same direction. Me and this thing. And to make it easy, that is forwards. So we're both going forwards, and for the pair of us, that's forwards. If this was forwards and that was forwards for that thing, we'd be going in different directions. Like many relationships. People feel they're being pulled apart in two different directions. Okay? But we're not, we're in the same direction. Now, if my relative position, me, in relationship to that, is here, okay? Not there, not there, not there, but here. Think about the kind of ways this relationship is defined. I'm behind it. I could be following in its footsteps. I could be falling behind. I could be trying to catch up. I could be holding it back. I could be pushing it forwards. I could be giving it a nudge. I could feel left behind. Okay? That's all the things that are possible from this position. Again, forwards for the pair of us. Supposing my position is here, I'm one step ahead. I lead the way. I show it which way to go. I'm clearing the path. I set the pace. Sometimes I block its way. Sometimes I feel I'm having to drag it forwards. I'm the leader. Make sense? We stand side by side, we go forwards together. Check this one. I'm staying on the right side of it. It feels left. It feels that I've left it, because I stay on the right side. I feel like I've been left, but at least it stays on the right side of me. Okay, left and right. I'm on top of it. It gives me support. It carries me. It supports me. This is going to look ridiculous on video. I give it support. I carry it. I look up to it. I feel that it looks down on me. Okay? If it was a box, I could be in it or I could be part of it. Everyone with me so far? There are 7 relative positions that I can adopt. Now, that is what it is, okay? It doesn't change. But its experience will be different if I adopt this position or if I adopt this position. Then no change has occurred here, but its experience of itself and its experience of me is changed by the relationship that I force it to have. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Let's expand this. Now imagine I'm a manager. Okay, so I'm a manager. That's the team that I manage. Now most of you will relate to this in some capacity, I'm sure. My preferred management position, I am behind my team all the way. I've got their backs. These are very much European expressions, you may have different ones. I've got their backs, I back them up constantly. I give them a nudge when they need it. Sometimes they complain that I'm holding them back, but they know I'm always right behind them. Not me, no. I'm the leader of this team. I set the pace, I show them which way to go, and I clear the way. I'm always up front. I'm up front with everything. Sometimes they complain that they take second place, but at least they know that I'm in charge because I'm the leader. Okay, very different position, very different attitude. You've all met this guy. They even stand like this. I'm in charge around here. I'm on top of things. I'm the conqueror. I'm on top. I'm the top guy. I expect my team to give me support whenever I need it. Which is very different to this guy who gives the team support whenever they need it. Okay? Make sense? My team feel that they've been left to one side. Sometimes I feel that I've been left to one side. So, or I could be in the team, I could be part of the team. There's 7 different positions. Now, this will profoundly affect a business. The ability to have the flexibility between all 7 is important. I used to work in a hospital department, worked for a very famous consultant who, he was very famous, very important. I was very privileged to work for this guy. Now, there was a high competition for people to work in this department because people very rarely left because they really enjoyed working there. There's this very special kind of team. This consultant had a very specific attitude. He backed up everybody. He also was very keen to push people to do more than they thought they were capable to do. When there was an emergency that people would feel a little bit out of their depth, it was, oh, I can't do this. He would go, come on, I've got your back. And he could step in when needed. He literally put the staff first. And in terms of treatment and doing the exciting, interesting stuff, he took second place because he only existed to make his team first. Everyone loved him. He was an eccentric, he was very odd, but everyone loved him. Now, he retired because he got to that point, he left, he retired. Now, he retired at a time that there were a lot of reforms coming in from the government. So So the way that certain departments were operated changed. Now when he retired, they put in another quite famous guy who was much more a politician than clinician in terms of his attitude. They didn't want a guy to back up the team because they wanted change. So they recruited this fella who was the leader. Rather than backing up his staff, because he had a job to do, he had to conform to the government reforms, he was one step ahead, he was the leader, he cleared the way, and he expected everyone to follow his lead and to back him up. Nearly, just over half of these people left within a year. There was enormous leaving of staff, because these people hadn't changed, but they were very used to having this style of management. They weren't followers. They were the people who, they led the way. Now they have to follow a guy who's been put there for a very specific job. So there's an enormous change of staff. Does this make sense? Now, most people don't consider these things, the positions they adopt. And most people have a default position. They don't have a flexibility. Some people always put themselves here, for example. Some people always put things to one side, your taxes, for example. Some people, when it comes to money, they're always chasing money. Think about that. Some people chase money, which implies money runs away from them. And some people even say that. They're chasing money. I mean, what do you want to do that for? The rest of us don't necessarily do that. Some people, when it comes to their business, they're one step ahead. Some people are trying to catch up with their business. Some people have left their business to one side. Some people support their business. Some people are so busy trying to get on top of their business. Does this make sense? Any questions? Marvellous. Here's your exercise, for which you have 6 minutes. Now what I want you to do is to think about the business that you have and the relative position. So if that's forwards, do you adopt this position behind it? Are you in front of it? Is the business getting on top of you? Do you feel squashed? Do you feel ground down and like you're getting beneath it? Do you strive to be on top of things? Or are you leaving it to one side? Oh, you know what some people do? They get so engrossed in their business, they leave themselves to one side. They forget to live. They spend 60, 70, 90 hours a week, every week for the rest of their lives, doing their business. Their family are an inconvenience to them, and an inconvenience to the business. This is the workaholic kind of attitude people haven't. You've got 5 minutes. Find out your relative position. Mix the groups up.